I need to talk about something that has been living in my brain rent-free for honestly probably 20-something years at this point, and I'm a little frustrated. I'm a little fired up because there is a show that aired on network television on Disney in the mid-1990s, a show that featured Shakespearean drama, complex morality, genuine romance between characters of a different species, a multiracial female lead who was written with more depth than most adult TV characters get today, and somehow, the broader animation community treats it like a footnote. I'm talking about Gargoyles. And specifically, I'm talking about the 3-part season 2 finale, Hunter's Moon, which contains what I will argue to my dying breath, one of the most sophisticated, emotionally devastating, and genuinely groundbreaking love triangles in the entire history of Western animation, and nobody is giving it the deep dive it deserves. Well, some heroes don't wear capes. You're welcome. Guess what? I'm doing it. We're doing it. This is part 1 of a 3-part series, and by the time we're done, you are going to feel things. I promise you that. Listen in with Lindsay. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time to Listen In with Lindsay. I'm Lindsay, voice actress, singer, absolute animation obsessive. And today we are going deep, like Shakespearean tragedy deep. Like I might cry on camera deep. Like I have notes deep, many notes. So buckle up, buttercups. Let's talk about Gargoyles. Okay. So before we get into Hunter's Moon specifically, I need to set the stage for anyone who maybe sort of kind of hasn't watched Gargoyles or watched it as a kid and doesn't fully remember just how wild this show was. Because here's the thing, and I say this as someone who works in the animation industry more or less, who has been in this industry for over a decade. Gargoyles was doing things in 1994 that most animated shows still aren't brave enough to do right now, as I'm recording this video in 2026. Let me paint you a picture. This is a show created by Greg Weisman for Disney. It premiered in October 1994 as part of the Disney Afternoon block. And on the surface, sure, it's about a clan of gargoyles, these ancient stone warriors who turn to stone during the day and come alive at night, who get betrayed by humans in medieval Scotland, put under a magic spell, and then wake up 1,000 years later on top of a skyscraper, no less, in modern Manhattan. Well, mid-1990s Manhattan. Cool premise, right? Sounds like a fun action cartoon, right? But here's where it gets insane. This show incorporated, and I'm not exaggerating, Shakespeare. Actual Shakespeare. Macbeth is a recurring character, not a reference to Macbeth, not a homage, the actual historical figure of Macbeth, who in this universe has been alive for centuries because of a magical bond with one of the gargoyles. Oberon and Titania from A Midsummer Night's Dream, yeah, they show up. They're major players. Puck, he's been disguised as a human billionaire's assistant the entire time. We didn't realize it. The show weaves in Scottish history, Norse mythology, Arthurian legend, Native American folklore, Japanese Bushido, and global mythologies, and it does it with respect, not as window dressing, as actual narrative architecture. And the characters, oh my goodness, the characters. This was not a good guys versus bad guys show. David Xanatos, the billionaire antagonist, is basically what you get if Tony Stark had no moral compass, but also wasn't technically evil. He's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. He's charming. He's brilliant. He sometimes helps the gargoyles because it serves his own interests. He's voiced by Jonathan Frakes, I believe, Commander Riker himself, and the performance is chef's kiss. The Xanatos Gambit became an actual TV trope. That's how well written this villain was. He created a trope. And then there's Demona, Demona, Goliath's former mate, a gargoyle who has been alive for 1,000 years and has spent every single one of those years hardening her heart against humanity. She's tragic. She's terrifying. She's completely wrong about most things, but you understand why she feels the way she does. She's done horrible things, but the show never lets you forget that horrible things were done to her first. She's one of the most complex antagonists in any animated show, period, full stop. The show dealt with racism, with destruction, with the cycle of hatred and revenge. It dealt with what it means to be the other in a society that fears you. It dealt with loyalty and betrayal and the cost of immorality and whether justice and vengeance are the same thing. In 1994 on Disney at 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon after DuckTales reruns, when people talk about Game of Thrones, the political intrigue, the moral complexity, the Shakespearean scope, I'm sitting there like Gargoyles did that in a Y7 rated animated show with a fraction of the budget and none of the gratuitous violence, and arguably with tighter plotting, honestly. Here's why this matters for what we're about to discuss. Hunter's Moon is the culmination of everything this show built. Every theme, every relationship, every simmering conflict, it all comes to a head in these 3 episodes. And at the center of it is a love story that the show spent 60 plus episodes carefully, patiently constructing, brick by brick, glance by glance, almost touch by almost touch. Goliath and Elisa. So let's talk about them, okay? Goliath and Elisa Maza. If you know, you know. You know? Okay, and if you don't know, sorry. I'm about to make you feel things about a cartoon gargoyle and a human detective, and I'm not even a little bit sorry about it. Let me start with who these characters are individually, because that matters. A love story is only as good as the people in it, am I right? Goliath is voiced by the incomparable Keith David, and we are absolutely going to talk about the voice performance later because it deserves its own segment. Goliath is the leader of the Manhattan Clan. He is enormous. He is powerful. He has wings and claws and fangs and glowing eyes, and he is one of the most gentle, thoughtful, emotionally intelligent characters in animation. But, and here's the key, he's not soft. Goliath is a warrior. He will absolutely destroy you if you threaten his clan. He carries 1,000 years of grief. He lost his entire world, his love, his home, everything. And he channels that grief into protection, into leadership, into this fierce, unwavering dedication to doing what's right, even when what's right is complicated and messy and unclear. He's noble in the truest sense of the word. Not noble as in boring good guy. Noble as in this is a being who has every reason to hate humanity, who watched humans betray and shatter his family, and who chose to protect them anyway, yet and still, because it's right. Because Elisa showed him it was right. Which brings us to Elisa. Detective Elisa Maza, NYPD 23rd Precinct, daughter of a Nigerian-American father, Peter Maza, and happy mother, Diane Maza. And let me just stop here for a second because this was 1994. A biracial woman of color as the female lead of a Disney animated series. Not the sidekick, not the love interest who shows up in 3 episodes, the lead. Elisa is in nearly every single episode of this show. She drives the plot as much as Goliath does. She is brave and smart and flawed and stubborn and compassionate, and she carries a gun and she makes mistakes and she gets back up. Voiced by Salli Richardson, who brings this perfect mix of toughness and warmth. Elisa's voice has this quality. It's strong, no nonsense, but there's this undercurrent of vulnerability that Salli layers in, especially in her scenes with Goliath. You can hear the walls she puts up, and you can hear the moments when those walls crack. Now, their relationship from the very first episode, literally the pilot, Goliath and Elisa have this connection. She's the first human he trusts in the modern world. She's the one who shows him that not all humans are like the ones who betrayed his clan. And their bond is built on something real. Mutual respect, shared values, trust earned through action. But here's where it gets complicated and beautiful and heartbreaking, because somewhere along the way, and this show is so smart about this, it doesn't give you a single aha moment. Somewhere along the way, respect turns into something deeper, and neither of them wants to name it. Think about it from Goliath's perspective. He's a gargoyle. He's not human. In his experience, gargoyles and humans don't mix. That mixing is literally what destroyed his clan. And here's this human woman who makes him feel things he hasn't felt well since Demona, his ex, since his world was whole. But how can he act on that? What does that even look like? He turns to stone during the day. She's mortal. He's 8 feet tall with wings. The world is terrified of gargoyles. What future could they possibly have? And from Elisa's perspective, she's a cop, a practical, grounded woman in a practical, grounded job. And she's fallen for someone she can never introduce to her coworkers, never take to dinner, never walk down the street with, someone the world would see as a monster, someone she'd have to hide forever. And beyond the logistics, there's a deeper question she won't let herself ask. Is this even possible? Physically, emotionally, in any real sense? Can a human woman and a gargoyle actually be together? So what does the show do? It gives us 2 seasons of the most exquisite slow burn I have ever seen in animation. The looks, oh my goodness, the looks. Goliath will be in the middle of a battle and his eyes will find Elisa's across the room. And there's this moment, this fraction of a second where everything else falls away and it's just him seeing her. And you can feel the weight of everything he's not saying. Keith David does this thing with his voice where Goliath says Elisa's name and it sounds like a prayer. I'm not being dramatic. Okay, go back and listen. The way he says Elisa is different from the way he says every other word. There's a softness, a reverence that Keith David, bakes into those 3 syllables every single time. And Elisa does the same thing in reverse. She'll be tough and professional with everyone else. And then Goliath walks in, or lands, I should say, because he has wings, and her entire energy shifts. Her voice drops. She relaxes. She lets her guard down in a way she doesn't with anyone else. And Salli Richardson plays those transitions so naturally that you almost don't notice them consciously, but you feel them. Boy, do you feel them. There are these moments scattered throughout the series. In The Mirror, that's the episode name, Elisa gets temporarily turned into a gargoyle and you see Goliath's reaction, the way he looks at her, and it's this flash of, oh, if things were different, if you were like me, this could be simple. And then she's turned back into a human and the moment passes and nobody talks about it. In Eye of the Beholder, another episode, Goliath said something like, and I'm paraphrasing here, I know what it's like to love someone you can't be with. And Elisa's face, the animation on her face in that moment, she knows he's talking about her. He knows he's talking about her. The audience knows it and nobody says it out loud, but we all know it, okay? In The Green, another episode, they're in the rainforest together and there are moments of physical closeness, a hand on a shoulder, standing too close, a look held a beat too long, that the show lingers on just enough for you to feel it in your chest. This goes on for 60 plus episodes, 60 plus episodes of Will They, Won't They, of these 2 people, these 2 beings orbiting each other, drawn together by something neither of them can fight, held apart by a gap neither of them knows how to cross. It's torture, beautiful, perfect, agonizing torture. And by the time we reach Hunter's Moon, the audience is absolutely starving for resolution. We've been watching this dance for 2 seasons. We've been yelling at our screens. We've been writing in our diaries. Okay, maybe that was just me, but you know what I mean. We need something to happen. And then Greg Wiseman, that beautiful, sadistic genius, does the one thing that could make this situation even more unbearable. He introduces a viable alternative. He gives Elisa, wait for it, a human man. Okay, Jason Conover, let's get into it. Let's talk about him because the way this character is introduced is honestly a masterclass in dramatic writing, and I have strong feelings about it. So here's the setup. It's the beginning of Hunter's Moon, Part 1, the Season 2 finale, and Elisa Maza gets a new temporary partner at the 23rd Precinct. His name is Jason Conover. And here's the thing about Jason, the thing that makes this love triangle work in a way that most love triangles don't. Jason Conover is not a jerk. He's not some smarmy, obviously wrong for her placeholder that the audience can easily dismiss. He is, on every visible metric, a great match for Elisa. He's tall, he's handsome, he's competent, like genuinely good at his job. He's got this confidence that isn't arrogance. It's just this easy self-assurance of someone who knows who he is and what he's doing. He's brave, he's perceptive, he's clearly respecting Elisa from the jump. He doesn't condescend her, doesn't pull rank, doesn't do any of that macho, I don't trust female partners garbage that a lazier show would have used. He treats her like an equal because he can see that she is his equal and he's human. That's the weapon. That's the thing that Greg Weisman is wielding like a scalpel. Jason is human. He can walk next to Elisa in daylight. He can go to a restaurant with her. He can meet her parents without them having a heart attack. He can hold her hand on the street. He can give her a normal life. Everything Goliath can't do, Jason can do it effortlessly. Not because he's better than Goliath, but because he's human and the world is built for humans. Now, I need to talk about why this is such brilliant, cruel writing and why it works so much better than the typical love triangle. In most love triangles, and I have ranted about this before on this channel, so forgive me, in most love triangles, there's a right answer and a wrong answer. The audience knows from the beginning who the protagonist is supposed to end up with. And the rival exists just to create artificial tension. You're never actually worried. You're never actually conflicted. It's just wheel spinning. Hunter's Moon does something different. Hunter's Moon makes you understand why Elisa might choose Jason. And that is terrifying because if Elisa choosing Jason makes sense, if it's actually the logical, practical, maybe even healthier choice, then the audience has to confront the same question Elisa is confronting. Is love enough when everything else is impossible? Think about what a life with Goliath actually looks like. You're dating someone who turns to stone at sunrise every single day. The person you love becomes a statue, and you have to just go about your day, hoping nothing happens to them, right? While they're completely vulnerable. You can never go to a movie together. You can never take a vacation. You would never have a lazy Sunday morning. Your partner can never meet your friends, go to your work events, or be a part of your daytime life in any capacity. And if the world ever finds out about him, they'll try to destroy him. You'll lose him. And you can't even fight that openly because the law doesn't protect gargoyles. They're not even recognized as sentient beings by most of the world. Now think about what a life with Jason looks like, okay? Normalcy, partnership, compatibility, a man who gets your job because he does the same job, someone your mom would approve of, someone the world wouldn't try to destroy. If you're Elisa and Elisa is a smart, practical woman, how do you not at least consider that? And here's where it gets even more painful because Jason doesn't just show up and be generically attractive. He and Elisa have chemistry. The show writes real chemistry between them, witty banter, mutual respect, easy physical comfort. There's a moment in part 1 where Jason does something small. I think it's the way he responds to one of Elisa's observations, taking it seriously, building on it, treating her intelligence as a given. And you can see the shift in her eyes, not I'm falling for this guy, more like, oh, this is what it would feel like to be with someone easy, someone I don't have to hide. And that is the knife in the heart because it's not that Jason is better than Goliath. It's that Jason is possible in a world, in a way that Goliath isn't. And Elisa knows it and the audience knows it. And somewhere in a castle above the clouds, Goliath knows it too. Now, and this is critical to the whole dynamic. Jason Conover is not who he says he is. He's Jason Canmore. Yes, it gets more interesting. One of the hunters, part of a family that has been hunting gargoyles since 994 AD. His sister, Robin, and his brother, John, are the latest generation of a blood vendetta that started when the gargoyle, Demona, scarred their ancestor across the face. They wear those distinctive hunter's masks, those red/aggressive masks that have become iconic in the show, and they are very good at what they do. So here's the dramatic irony that makes this whole thing sing. Jason, he's genuinely attracted to Elisa. He genuinely likes her. He genuinely respects her, but he's also there for a mission. He's in that precinct, in that city, because the hunters have tracked the Gargoyle clan to Manhattan. And he doesn't know, not yet, that the woman he's developing feelings for is the Gargoyle's closest human ally. He doesn't know that the creature he's sworn to destroy are the creatures she loves. And Elisa doesn't know that the charming new partner who's making her question everything is someone who would put a missile through Goliath's chest without a second thought. This is drama. This is Shakespearean level dramatic irony. Everyone the audience cares about is on a collision course, and nobody has all the information. And every genuine moment of connection between Jason and Elisa, every smile, every laugh, every moment of trust is simultaneously real and built on a lie. Both of those things are true at the same time. The feelings are real. The foundation is rotten. And the audience is sitting there knowing all of this, watching these people walk toward the edge of a cliff, and you want to reach through the screen and shake them, and you can't. All you can do is watch. Gosh, I love this show. I love it so much. All right, so let's get into the actual episode scene by scene, because the construction of this episode, how information is revealed, how tension is built, how the emotional and action beats are woven together, it's genuinely exceptional television, and I want to give it the attention it deserves. Hunter's Moon, Part 1. Okay, it opens with a cold open set in the past, Scotland, 994 AD. And this is important because the show is establishing the roots of what's about to happen. We see the original Hunter, the ancestor of the Canmore family. He's a young man, and his face is scarred by Demona. And in this moment of pain and rage and humiliation, a vendetta is born. Not a political conflict, not a strategic decision, a vendetta. Personal, visceral, the kind of hatred that gets passed down through blood from parent to child, generation after generation, until nobody even remembers the original wound. They just remember the rage. And here's the thing the show does that is so smart. It shows you this origin, and it makes sure you understand that the Hunter was wronged. Demona did attack him. His pain was real. His anger was justified in that moment. But then the show tracks that justified anger across 1,000 years and shows you what it becomes. A blind generational obsession that has consumed this family. The Canmores didn't stay hunters because the cause was just. They stayed hunters because the hatred was comfortable, because it gave them purpose, because letting go would mean confronting the possibility that their entire family identity was built on a wound that could have healed. Does that sound familiar? It should, because it's the same cycle Demona is trapped in, just from the other side. The hunters hate gargoyles because of what Demona did. Demona hates humans because of what humans did to gargoyles. And both sides use their other's hatred to justify their own. It's a perpetual motion machine of violence, and nobody can see that they're both trapped in it. This is a kid's show, people. A kid's show exploring generational trauma and the self-perpetuating nature of ethnic hatred. In 1996 on ABC on a Saturday morning, I need that to sink in for a second, okay? So we established the historical backdrop, and then we're in modern day, 1995-ish or 96 Manhattan, present day at the time. And this is where the episode really starts cooking. We see the Gargoyle clan going about their nightly patrols, and everything feels relatively normal. Goliath, Brooklyn, Broadway, Lexington, Hudson, Bronx. They're doing what they do, protecting the city, being heroes that the city doesn't even know it has. And we see Elisa at the precinct doing her thing, being a great detective as always. But then things shift. The hunters appear, and they are not playing around. These are not the bumbling villains the clan has dealt with before. The hunters are organized. They're tactical. They have advanced technology, hovercraft weapons, surveillance equipment. They know what they're doing. They've clearly been studying the clan, tracking their movements, learning their patterns, and their first strike is devastating. There's an attack sequence in part 1 that is genuinely intense. The hunters engage the gargoyles mid-patrol, and it's not the kind of fight where both sides are evenly matched and trading blows. The hunters have the element of surprise, and they use it. The clan is caught off guard, and for a moment, a real terrifying moment, you think they might not get out of this. The animation during this sequence is top tier. The fight choreography, the sense of speed and danger, the way the hunters move with military precision, while the gargoyles scramble to regroup. It's genuinely thrilling action, television, compressed into animation cells. And here's where the brilliance of the parallel storytelling kicks in, because while the gargoyles are being hunted, While Goliath is fighting for his life and the lives of his clan, cut to the 23rd precinct where Elisa Maza is meeting her new temporary partner. Jason Conover walks in and the show gives us this perfectly crafted introduction. He's professional, he's capable. There's an ease to him that's immediately appealing. And Elisa, who is usually guarded, who doesn't let people in easily, responds to him, not in a love at first sight way. That would be cheap, and the show doesn't do cheap. More in a, this person might actually be worth my time way. There's a curiosity there, an openness that we don't usually see from Elisa with people she's just met. And, well, the show cuts between these two threats, Goliath fighting hunters in the sky, Elisa meeting Jason in the precinct. And the editing is doing so much work because the audience is watching Elisa smile at this new partner and we're screaming internally because we know, or at least we suspect, that there's a connection between this charming new cop and those mass maniacs trying to kill Goliath. The tension is unbearable and it's all subtext. Nobody's saying anything. It's all in the structure, in the juxtaposition, in what the show chooses to show you and when. Then there's the scene, the one that really sets the love triangle in motion. Elisa and Jason are working together, actually working, investigating something, being partners, and there's this moment of connection between them, a shared joke or a shared insight, something that creates a spark of, we're on the same wavelength. And Elisa lets herself enjoy it. She lets herself be in the moment with this man who is easy to be around, who doesn't come with a mountain of impossible complications. And then cut to Goliath night. Was it in the castle? I think. And somehow through context or through someone mentioning it, I think it might be Broadway or Lexington who lets it slip. Goliath learns that Elisa has a new partner, a male partner, a human male partner. And the way Keith David plays Goliath's reaction, I need you to understand what an incredible piece of voice acting this is, because Goliath doesn't yell. He doesn't break things. He doesn't do anything that you would traditionally associate with jealousy. What he does is go very, very still. And his voice, that incredible rumbling cathedral of a voice, gets just slightly quieter, just slightly more controlled, like he's holding something in a very tight grip, and he's terrified that if he loosens his fingers even a fraction, it will escape and he won't be able to take it back. There's maybe a question, a carefully neutral question about this new partner. Who is he? How long will they be working together? And on the surface, these are reasonable questions. But the way they're asked, the careful emptiness of the tone, the deliberate absence of emotion, that's where the performance lives. Because Goliath has spent 2 seasons not claiming Elisa, not saying, you're mine, not having any right to say that. Because he's never told her how he feels. Because he doesn't know if he can. Because what would he even be offering her? A life in the shadows? A love that can only exist on rooftops after midnight? And now there's a man, a human man, who can offer her everything Goliath can't. And Goliath knows, he knows that he has no right to be jealous. He has no claim on Elisa. They've never even said the words. Maybe they kissed. I can't remember. They've never defined what they are. And so the jealousy he's feeling is tangled up with guilt because he feels like he shouldn't be feeling it, and with self-loathing because he blames himself for never being brave enough to tell her, and with fear, this deep, cold fear that maybe the reason she never pushed for more was because she was always going to choose a human, that maybe he was always going to lose her to someone who could give her a normal life. All of this, in the way Keith David says a handful of quiet words and then changes the subject. If you want to study voice acting, if you're an aspiring voice actor and you want to understand what it means to convey an inner world through vocal performance, study Keith David in Gargoyles. Study this scene specifically because he's not doing jealous voice. He's not doing sad voice. He's doing something infinitely more complex, a character who is suppressing an emotion and almost succeeding. The operative word being almost. The crack in the control is where the performance lives. The audience hears what he's not saying, and it's devastating. Now, I want to contrast that with how Elisa handles the situation, because Salli Richardson is doing equally phenomenal work, just in a completely different register. Elisa is confused. That's the honest word for it. She has feelings for Goliath, deep, real, complicated feelings that she's never fully let herself examine, because examining them means answering the questions she doesn't have answers to. And now here's Jason, this new presence in her life who is making her feel seen in a way that's different from how Goliath sees her. Not better, not worse, different. Goliath sees her as extraordinary, as this rare, remarkable being who bridges two worlds. Jason sees her as a woman, a smart, capable, attractive woman. And there's something dangerously appealing about being seen simply, without the weight of being the one human a gargoyle trusts, without the pressure of being the bridge between species, just Elisa.
This episode is sponsored by Gigi and the Giggle Stamp. Get ready to dance, laugh, and sing along with Gigi, the lovable character who's bringing joy to children everywhere. Her brand new song, Gigi and the Giggle Stamp, is out now, and it's guaranteed to bring smiles, giggles, and a whole lot of fun to your little ones.
And you know what? Salli Richardson captures that confusion beautifully. There is a slight breathlessness when Elisa talks to Jason, like she's surprised by her own response to him. And there's a different quality when she talks to Goliath. This warmth, this depth, this pull, but also a guardedness that wasn't there before. Like she's suddenly aware that she's been standing on a ledge for 2 seasons and now she has to decide whether to jump or step back. And Jason is a solid ground behind her and Goliath is the sky in front of her. And the show doesn't tell her or us which choice is right, because maybe neither choice is right. Maybe both choices cost something, and that's the terrifying reality of this love triangle. I want to highlight a detail that I think a lot of people miss on first viewing. Pay attention to how the show stages Elisa physically in her scenes with Jason versus her scenes with Goliath. With Jason, she's at eye level. They're the same height, roughly. They're in well-lit rooms. They're surrounded by normal things, desks, coffee cups, case files. It's grounded. It's real. With Goliath, she's looking up, always. He towers over her. They meet on rooftops, in shadows, in liminal spaces between the world of human and gargoyles. The lighting is moonlight and neon. There's wind, there's height. It's romantic in the most literal sense, removed from reality, elevated, dangerous, beautiful, and it looks like a fairy tale, which is the point. The show is visually coding Goliath as the romantic, impossible dream and Jason as the attainable reality. And it's asking Elisa and the audience to choose between the dream and the real. That visual storytelling is doing so much heavy lifting, and I don't think it gets enough credit. I want to dig into something I touched on earlier because it's really the launchpad of why this love triangle works. The fact that Jason Conover is genuinely likable, and why that was a bold, creative choice. Let me give you the easy version of the story. The version of a less ambitious show would have told Elisa gets a new partner. He's arrogant, he's dismissive, he's maybe a little sexist, he doesn't take her seriously, the audience hates him immediately, Elisa's irritated by him, and Goliath is clearly the superior choice. The love triangle is never really a triangle because there's no genuine competition. It's just an obstacle. It's a speed bump, not a crossroads. That would have been easy. That would have been safe. And it would have been boring. Greg Weisman doesn't do boring. Instead, he created a character who is in a vacuum, in a world where gargoyles don't exist. Probably the right guy for Elisa. Jason is her equal in a way that makes sense within the frameworks of her daily life. He understands the pressure of the job. He's got her back in dangerous situations. He makes her laugh. He challenges her intellectually. He's the kind of partner that in a different show would be the love interest, the main love interest. And that is what makes the audience squirm, because we love Goliath. We've been Team Goliath for 2 seasons. We're invested in the slow burn. We want payoff. But when Jason shows up and is actually really great, there's this horrible, guilty little voice in the back of your head that whispers, maybe Elisa would be happier with him. And you feel awful for thinking it because you love Goliath, because Goliath loves her, because their connection is deeper and more profound and more meaningful than anything Jason could offer. But is deeper and more meaningful enough when the practical realities are so overwhelming? Is passion enough when you can never hold hands in the sun? This is what great writing does. It doesn't give you easy answers. It makes you confront impossible questions and sit with the discomfort. And the beautiful, tragic twist, which the audience knows, but Elisa doesn't, is that Jason isn't who he seems. He's a hunter. His entire identity is a lie. So the safe choice isn't actually safe at all. The solid ground behind Elisa is a trap door, but she doesn't know that yet. And the dramatic irony of watching her lean towards safety while the audience screams, "Hey, it's not safe," that's the kind of tension that you can't manufacture. You have to earn it through character work. And Gargoyles earned it. Boy, oh boy, did they earn it. I also want to talk about what Jason's likability does for the theme of the show, because it connects to that generational hatred arc I mentioned earlier. The Canmore family has spent 1,000 years defining gargoyles as monsters, as less than, as things to be hunted and destroyed. And Jason has inherited that worldview. It's in his bones. It's in his identity. It's in his sense of self. But Jason is also a man who, when he meets Elisa, genuinely connects with her. He's not faking his feelings. He's not manipulating her, at least not entirely. He likes her. He cares about her. And that capacity for connection, for seeing another person as fully human and worthy of respect, it coexists with his capacity for blind hatred against gargoyles. He can be kind and perceptive with Elisa and absolutely merciless with Goliath, and he doesn't see the contradiction. And that is the show's commentary on how prejudice works. It's not that bigots are monsters who are incapable of love. It's that bigotry allows people to compartmentalize, to be capable of love in one direction and hatred in another. Jason can be a good man to Elisa and to Goliath. And in his mind, those things don't conflict because he's been taught that gargoyles aren't people. They're targets. And dehumanization, or in this case, depersonification, is the engine that makes the compartmentalization possible. A kid's show, again, exploring the cognitive mechanics of prejudice through a love triangle in the mid-90s. Just saying, I just need a moment. I need a moment for you and myself to appreciate that. Okay, let me put on my voice actress hat because this is where I get really passionate. I've been in this industry for over a decade. I've worked on dubbing, animation, commercials. I've been in the booth. I know what it takes to deliver a vocal performance that means something. And what Keith David and Salli Richardson do in this show, and particularly in Hunter's Moon, is a masterclass. I don't use that word lightly. This is the level. Keith David, let me tell you what Keith David does with Goliath that almost no other voice actor has ever done with an animated character. He makes you forget that Goliath is animated. He makes you forget that this character is purple and has wings and turns to stone. Within about 30 seconds of Keith David speaking, Goliath stops being a cartoon and becomes, well, a person. A gargoyle, but a person. A person with a rich inner life, with dignity, with pain, with desire. And Keith David does this not through showmanship, not through big, showy vocal tricks, but through truth. Every line reading feels true, feels lived in, feels like it's coming from a real place inside a real being. His voice for Goliath in this incredible instrument, it's deep, obviously profoundly deep, but it's not just deep voice playing a big character. Listen to the texture. There's gravel in it when Goliath is angry. There's this almost musical quality when he's contemplative. There's gentle softness when he's with Elisa that shouldn't be possible from a voice that low. But Keith David finds it. He finds tenderness in the rumble. He finds vulnerability in the strength. And in Hunter's Moon Part 1, when Goliath is processing the news about Jason, about Elisa having this new partner, Keith David does something that I genuinely think is one of the top 5 voice acting moments in animation history, and most people miss it because it's so subtle. He plays jealousy as control. Most actors, when asked to play jealousy, lean into the emotion. They let you hear the jealousy. They telegraph it. But Keith David makes the choice to have Goliath control the jealousy. And he lets you hear the control, the effort of control, the tiny micro fractures in the composure, a pause that's a beat too long, a word that's slightly too precise, a question asked with slightly too much disinterest. It's like watching someone hold a glass of water with a perfectly steady hand, and then you notice that their knuckles are white. The stillness isn't calm. The stillness is effort. And the gap between those two things, between the calm surface and the storm underneath, that's where the performance lives. That's where the heartbreak lives. As a voice actress, I study performances like this. I literally go back and listen to specific line readings and try to understand the technical and emotional choices being made. And Keith David's Goliath is one of those roles where every time I revisit it, I find another layer, another choice, another moment where I think, how did he do that? How did he convey that much with that little? It's truly an art. And then there's Salli Richardson as Elisa. And the thing about Salli Richardson's performance that doesn't get enough recognition is how naturalistic it is. In animation, voice acting, there's a tendency towards bigness, towards broad vocal choices, exaggerated emotions, clear emotional signposting for young audiences. And Salli Richardson doesn't do that. She plays Elisa like she's in a live action drama. Her vocal performance has the subtlety and nuance of someone acting on camera, not behind a microphone. When Elisa is conflicted, Salli Richardson doesn't give you conflicted voice. She gives you a woman who sounds like she's fine, who is trying to sound fine, but who has this slight edge, this barely perceptible tightness that tells you she's not fine. It's the vocal equivalent of someone smiling while their eyes are sad. And it's incredibly difficult to pull off in animation because you don't have a face to back it up. You only have the voice, and the voice has to do everything. In Elisa's scenes with Jason in part 1, listen to how Salli Richardson modulates her energy. There's a brightness, an openness, an ease, and it feels good. It sounds like a woman who's enjoying someone else's company. But there's also, underneath that brightness, this faint question mark, this hint of, should I be feeling this? This whisper of guilt that Elisa isn't even fully conscious of yet. But Salli Richardson has planted it there in the vocal performance so that when the guilt surfaces later on, it doesn't come out of nowhere. The seeds were there from the beginning, in the voice, in the breath, in the spaces between words. And in Elisa's scenes with Goliath in part 1, there's a shift. The voice deepens, the pace slows, the walls come up. But they're the walls of someone protecting something vulnerable, not someone shutting you out. And there's this ache. I keep coming back to that word ache that Salli Richardson layers into every exchange with Goliath that is just, oh goodness, it's so beautiful. It's the sound of someone standing next to the person they love and not being able to touch them, not being able to say the words, not knowing if the words would even help. You know what I'm saying? And here's the thing I really want to emphasize. These two performances, Keith David and Salli Richardson, are in constant conversation. They're playing off even, well, each other, even when their characters aren't talking about what's really going on. The unspoken dialogue between Goliath and Elisa is as vivid and specific as the spoken dialogue. And that's because both actors are making choices that assume the subtext. They're acting the subtext, not the text. The text is how was patrolled tonight. The subtext is, I love you and I'm terrified of losing you and I don't know how to say that. And both actors are playing the subtext. I think about this a lot in my own work. When I'm in the booth and I'm voicing a character, the question I always come back to is, what is this character not saying? Because what they're saying is on the page. That's the easy part. The hard part, the art, is everything underneath, the want, the fear, the hope, the lie they're telling themselves. That's what makes a vocal performance live or die. And Keith David and Salli Richardson understood that instinctively. Every scene, every episode, every look that the animators drew was being informed by performances of astonishing emotional specificity. Also, and I just want to throw this in because I'll never stop being salty about it, the fact that Keith David was never nominated for an Emmy for this role is a genuine injustice. I don't care that it was a kid's show. That performance stands toe-to-toe with any dramatic performance on television in the 1990s, period, end of story. I will make my mark on that hill. Okay? All right, so let's pull back and talk about the bigger picture. Why does this love triangle work? Why does it stick with us? Why am I sitting here, I don't know, 30 some years later, still emotionally compromised by cartoon Gargoyles feelings? What is Gargoyles doing that other shows with love triangles fail to do? I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think it comes down to, I guess, 4 things. Number 1, the stakes are real. In most animated love triangles, the stakes are social. Will she go to prom with a guy? With like guy A or guy B? Will he choose the popular girl or the girl next door? The worst thing that can happen is hurt feelings and an awkward hallway encounter. Ooh. In Hunter's Moon, the stakes are existential. If Elisa and Goliath are together, truly, openly together, it puts both of them in danger. Elisa risks her career, her reputation, possibly her safety. Goliath risks exposing his entire clan to a world that would destroy them. Their love isn't just complicated, it's dangerous. People could get hurt. And with Jason in the mix, the stakes get even higher. Can you believe it? Because Jason is a hunter. If Elisa gets close to Jason, she might unknowingly give the hunters information that leads them to Goliath. Her heart could get the person she loves in danger, not metaphorically, actually literal danger. The love triangle isn't just about feelings, it's about survival. And that changes everything. Number 2, the other man isn't evil. I talked about this in the Jason section, but it bears repeating because it's so important. Jason Conover in part 1 is not coded as a villain. He's not doing anything wrong. He's a good cop. He's a decent human being. He genuinely likes Elisa. He's not manipulating her. His feelings are real. Yes, he's secretly a hunter. Yes, his ultimate mission is horrifying. But in his interactions with Elisa in part 1, he's just a guy who's interested in a remarkable woman. And that makes him dangerous to the narrative in a way that a clear villain never could be. Because you can't hate him. You want to hate him because you're Team Goliath, but you can't because the show won't let you. It keeps showing you his humanity, his kindness, his genuine charm. And every time you find yourself almost liking him, you feel like a traitor, which is exactly how Elisa feels about finding herself attracted to him. The audience's emotional conflict mirrors the protagonist's emotional conflict. That's not just good writing. That's masterful audience manipulation, okay? Number 3, the interspecies element makes it genuinely revolutionary. I need to be direct about this because I think the cultural significance of what Gargoyles was doing in the 90s doesn't get enough attention. No, it does not. Goliath and Elisa's relationship is at its core a story about loving someone who is fundamentally different from you. Someone the world sees as other. Someone you're not supposed to love. And the show never, ever treats this as a joke or a gimmick. The romantic tension between Goliath and Elisa is played with the same gravity, the same tenderness, the same emotional reality as any live-action romance between two humans. In 1996, having a show portray an interspecies relationship with this level of sincerity and emotional depth was radical. I mean, well, there was Beauty and the Beast, but I digress. Remember, this is the same era when network TV was still nervous about interracial couples on screen. And here's Gargoyles saying, not only is this woman in love with someone of a different species, but that love is beautiful and valid and worth fighting for. That is a statement. That is a show staking out moral ground and daring you to argue with it. And by introducing Jason, a human alternative who represents the normal, acceptable version of love, the show forces the audience to confront their own biases. When you catch yourself thinking, maybe she should just be with Jason, it would be easier. The show is holding up a mirror. It's asking you, is love only valid when it's convenient? Is love only real when it looks the way society expects it to look? That's a profoundly radical question for a Disney animated series in the 90s. And Hunter's Moon doesn't answer it for you. It trusts you to wrestle with it yourself. And that is respect for the audience that you rarely see. Because most shows talk down to you. Am I right? Number 4, the slow burn earned it. I cannot stress this enough. The reason the love triangle in Hunter's Moon hits as hard as it does is because the show spent 60 plus episodes building the foundation. We didn't show up in part 1 and get told these two characters have feelings for each other. We watched it. We watched it all happen. We lived it. We felt every glance, every charged silence, every almost moment. So when Jason shows up and threatens the dynamic, we're not watching from a distance. We're invested. We have skin in the game. We've been rooting for Goliath and Elisa since the pilot. We've been frustrated by their inability to communicate. We've been hoping episode after episode for something, anything to happen. And the show takes all of that accumulated emotional investment, all of that patience, all of that hope, and it puts it in jeopardy with one character, one charming, handsome human character who represents everything that Goliath isn't and can't be. The slow burn doesn't just make the love triangle more painful, it makes it personal. We're not observing Elisa's dilemma, we're feeling it because we've been on this journey with her. We know what Goliath means to her because we've been there for her every step. And the threat of losing that or watching her choose not to fight for it hits us in the chest because we're carrying 2 seasons of emotional baggage into these episodes. You can't shortcut that. You can't fake it. You can't skip to the dramatic payoff without putting in the work. And Gargoyles put in the work. I think that's why this love triangle has stayed with me all these years and why it holds up when I revisit it as an adult with a deeper understanding of storytelling. It's not just a well-executed plot device. It's a story about the terrifying vulnerability of loving someone when the whole world is telling you it's impossible, and the equally terrifying possibility that maybe the world is right. Yikes. If that doesn't wreck you, I don't know what to tell you. You might be a robot, just maybe. Check your circuits, okay? So we've set the stage. We've established the players. We've talked about the decades-long slow burn between Goliath and Elisa, the devastating perfection of Jason Conover as a romantic rival, the voice performances that make this feel like Shakespeare in animation form, and the structural choices that elevate this love triangle from plot device to emotional masterpiece. And we haven't even gotten to the really painful stuff yet, because in part 2, things get messy. Here's what's coming. Jason and Elisa get closer. Goliath watches it happen. The hunters escalate their attacks on the clan, and the connections between Jason's daytime life and his nighttime mission start to tighten. Elisa finds herself caught between 2 worlds in a way that she can no longer avoid, and the walls she's built around her feelings for Goliath, for Jason, for the impossible situation she's in start to crumble. And there is a moment in part 2 that I've been thinking about since I was a kid, a moment that redefines Goliath and Elisa's relationship forever. A moment that I am going to need the entire first 15 minutes of part 2 to properly unpack because it is that emotionally dense. I am not going to spoil it here, but I will say this. If part 1 is the match being struck, part 2 is the fire catching, and nobody is coming out of it unburned. So here's what I need from you. Are you ready? Okay, first, if you haven't watched Hunter's Moon, go watch it right now before part 2 of this deep dive comes out, okay? It's on Disney Plus. It's 3 episodes. You can knock it out in an hour and a half. And I promise you, even if you've never seen a single other episode of Gargoyles, Hunter's Moon will grab you by the heart and not let go. If you have watched it, I know you have feelings. Tell me in the comments. I want to hear everything. Who are you rooting for? Okay, Team Goliath, or are you secretly a little bit Team Jason. Don't be ashamed. This is a safe space. And tell me about the first time you watched this arc. How old were you? Where were you? Did it change the way you think about love in animation? Because I know it changed the way I think about it. Also, theory time. I want your theories. What do you think Jason's real feelings for Elisa are? Is he genuinely falling for her, or is there a part of him that's using her to get to the Gargoyles, even subconsciously? Is Elisa actually tempted by Jason, or is she using the attraction as an escape from the terrifying depth of what she feels for Goliath? I want your takes, okay? I want your hot takes. I want your I've been thinking about this for 20 years takes. Put them in the comments. I read everything. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Lindsay. I'm a voice actress and singer in LA with over a decade of experience in animation, anime, dubbing, and commercials. I live for animation deep dives, the kind where we actually dig into the writing, the performances, the cultural significance, the stuff that makes these shows more than just entertainment. If that's your thing, hit subscribe. We do this every week. We go deep. We get emotional. We argue about fictional characters like our lives depend on it, because honestly, it kind of feels like they do, at least in my world. Like this video, share it with someone who grew up watching Gargoyles and never got over it, like moi. I know you know someone. We all know someone. We are someone. At least I am. And hit that notification bell for part 2, because you do not want to miss what's coming. Hunter's Moon Part 2 is where this love triangle goes from emotionally complicated to emotionally catastrophic. And I have so much to say. Duh. Until then, listen in. Bye-bye. This is Lindsay with Listen In with Lindsay, and I'll see you in part 2. Be kind to each other, love fiercely, and never let anybody tell you that cartoons are just for kids. Okay? Great life advice. Bye for real.
Listen in with Lindsay.